Hey, Ignite Middle School students, Pastor Todd and Pastor Eric here, and welcome to this weekend's experience just for you guys. We're excited to hear how God is using this time in your lives, and I forgot what I was going to say. Take 14. Experience. You know, one of our core mission here at the chapel, one of our core missions. Take 15. Ignite Middle.
Hold on, sorry, I was about to brush my mustache.
You can just Ignite Middle School students at the chapel. Pastor Eric and Pastor Todd here. So cool that we get to welcome you guys to this weekend's student ministry experience. You know, our mission here at the chapel is to help people move one step closer to God and each other through Christ. And some of those people are you guys. We love you middle schoolers, and we know that God has some incredible plans for your life, and He wants to pull you closer to Him and closer to each other. So we've got a challenge for you.
That's right. A lot of people will say, Eric, how do I know God is speaking to me? And maybe you're out there as well, or maybe you don't even believe there's a God, and yet if there maybe was one, how would He be speaking to you? Well, we know that He speaks to us, and we can interact with who He is and find out how much He loves us through His Word. And so here's what we want to challenge you with. Over the next 90 days, we are asking you to take the 90-day New Testament challenge. You know what that is? You're going to spend 90 days in the New Testament learning about Jesus, learning how to become like Jesus, how to love people like Jesus. Can you imagine what your life will look like if it looked like Him? So 90 days, following Jesus and looking at His Word. Right below me right now is a link to how you can look at that. Wouldn't it be great to come out of this quarantine looking more like Jesus? You have that chance. Click on the link, follow along, and let's go into our game. I hope our game's next.
It will be.
All right, sorry.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Ignite Game of the Week with Joe Binkley. Joe, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, but I feel a little underdressed for the occasion. Hold on one second. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
You got yours from the Tough Mudder. I got mine from the Tough Rocker.
Tough rock. Okay. There. Looks good.
Joe, Friday was National Pizza Party Day.
Of course I know that. Pizza's my favorite food. I like all pizza. There's no bad pizza.
What about pineapple on pizza?
You know, I'm not one to judge people. So if that's what you like, I've eaten pineapple on pizza before. It's okay. But I'm a purist. I like pepperoni. You want to hear this week's dad joke?
Yes, I do. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Binkley's dad joke.
Okay. So this guy asked his wife. He said, "Hey, honey, can you tell me what month it is?" And she goes, "It's May." And he goes, "Sorry, may you tell me what month it is?"
That's awesome. All right, Joe, what's our game this week?
This game is called the Game of Pizza.
I think for the Game of Pizza, I think we should give away a pizza to the winner, and because you're a purist, let's give away a pepperoni pizza to whoever wins.
Okay, sounds good. Wait, whoever, like, what, students win? The student?
Oh yeah, it should be us, huh?
Yeah, it should be.
So students, if you will, put your name in the comments below. Let us know how many you got correct, and we will pick randomly from that list of people, and we'll send one of you guys a large pepperoni pizza.
Sounds good. All right, question number one.
Question number one.
What day of the year has the highest pizza sales? New Year's Eve, Super Bowl Sunday, or National Youth Group Lock-In Day?
I think I know this one. I'm going to say B.
I'm going to say B as well. And it is B, yes, obviously. Super Bowl, right? Okay, so 1-1. True or false, the longest pizza delivery ever recorded was 6,800 miles, South Africa to Australia. And they got there in 30 minutes or less. Can you believe that? I'm gonna say true.
And I will go false.
Okay. The answer is true. Gotcha. All right. 2-1. Okay, true or false? Someone once made a pizza that was a mile in diameter. I'm gonna say false.
A mile in diameter? There's no way. Totally false.
False. The largest pizza ever recorded was 123 feet wide. 3,968 pounds of cheese was used to make it. That is a lot. That's a lot.
Giant pizza.
Yeah.
How would it even cook that?
Science. I don't know. What am I? Some type of pizzaologist? Where was modern day pizza invented? Italy, Greece, or by a youth ministry in New Jersey?
I'm going Italy.
I'm gonna go Greece. Just
Don't give in to the temptation to pick Greece. You know it's Italy.
it was Italy. Dang it. You got it.
They were tied.
My wife is half Italian. She'd be so disappointed at me. How many pizzas are sold every year in North America? 500 million, 2 billion, or 4 billion? I'm going with B.
I think the answer is B as well.
Okay, the answer is, oh, we were both wrong. I don't know what to tell you. Okay. True or false? The most popular pizza topping in Japan is squid.
False.
Ooh. I'm going with true. I think it's right. True! Yes!
Oh, that's disgusting!
Would you eat squid on pizza?
Heck no! I would eat squid in a box or with a fox.
That's disgusting. I would not eat that either. Okay. So I'm up by 1.
Nice.
I think I have 3. You have 2. All right. What company delivers most pizza in the world? Papa John's, Pizza Hut, or Domino's?
I am pretty sure I know this one. I think the answer is Pizza Hut.
I think it's C for Domino's. Let's find out. It is C, 4-2. I told you I was gonna beat you at this game.
I don't even think I can come back.
I don't think you can either. Okay. How many slices of pizza does the average person in North America eat every year? 46, 23, or 62?
62.
Okay, I'm gonna go with 46. Yes, that's 23 pounds of pizza. Nice. I think when I die, that's going to go down a bit because I'm definitely a contributor there. I love pizza. Okay, 5-2. I won. 5-2. Okay, let's do the tiebreaker anyway. What month is National Pizza Month in the U.S.? Ooh, I don't know this one.
Gotta be February because of the Super Bowl.
I'm going to say B, October.
And this one's worth 10 points.
And I won it. And I was just guessing. Sorry for your loss, Ken.
There you go. That's our game of the week. Tell us what score you got by commenting below, and we'll send one of you guys a large pepperoni pizza!
This week, I was able to sit down with Pastor Jay Halley. Pastor Jay is passionate about leadership and about sharing the good news of Jesus Christ all over the world. He's got a powerful story, and I'm so glad you get to hear it today.
Hey everybody, welcome to 5 Perfect Questions with Pastor Jay. Jay Halley, we are so grateful for you to spend some time with us today. How are you, sir?
Great. My name is really Nacho Libre. I can't get it on. There we go. I love Nacho Libre. I don't know why the Oscars did not pick it as best movie of the year. Nacho. Yeah.
Nacho! And you've actually been where they filmed.
Yes, I have. I'm taking this off because it's a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah, down in Oaxaca, southern Mexico, Oaxaca. That's where they filmed Nacho Libre. And so I was in the alley where they had their wrestling match, and him and his the guy who actually became his partner, they were fighting over chips. And so the other guy that I was with, we did a mock wrestling match in the alley simulating Nacho.
I think we actually have footage of that. Let's check it out.
Won't you take it easy? I need your help.
All right, Jay, I got 5 questions for you. The first one is, tell us about your family.
Yeah, so that's changed in the last year. Let me tell you about the 3 that are belong to my wife, Annette, and me. Annette is my wife. We've been married 35 years this year, and she's a nurse. And she works with surgery patients. And then
is she being affected by the COVID crisis?
Yeah, she is. She's lost hours because the hospitals are not doing elective surgeries, and 85% of her surgeries are elective.
Oh,
so
wow.
they cut those out. But she showed me she has a new shield that she has to wear over her face, and a mask, double mask, and just to protect her and the patients.
Is she also going to wear the Nacho Libre mask for an added measure?
That's what this is, right? Yeah. I'll loan it to her for a price. And then our oldest son is Daniel, and he just got married in September. He married a girl from Catawba Island. Her name's Nicole, and together they go to our Port Clinton campus. Our second is Matthew. He's an engineer out in Boston.
And he is so tall.
He's he's like almost 6'5", about 240. He would make a great wrestler. And then our daughter Anna, she graduated from Ohio State, and she works for a company called Cardinal Health, one of the biggest companies in the United States. She's working closely with the government against this COVID thing, talking with companies who are trying to make products to help fight COVID. So interesting.
Wow, that's awesome, man.
And then,
Question number 2: pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
With a little bit of ham or bacon, absolutely. Yeah. Pineapple goes with a lot of things.
Question number 3: what was teenage Jay Halley like?
You know what? I think I was trying to figure out who I was. Was I an athlete? Well, eventually I discovered probably not so much. Did I love the arts? Yes, I did. In high school, I got involved in musicals, and I love that. I mean, I did play football and basketball eventually, but junior high, I was just trying to figure that out. I remember when I was in middle school, I loved it, and it was hard all at the same time, But I wish I had figured out Jesus at an earlier age. Loved the outdoors, loved getting involved, loved having friends. But it was kind of odd. I was raised in Ohio, and then we came back to Ohio. But for those 2 years, my 7th and 8th grade years, we lived in Michigan, in East Lansing. My dad was going to Michigan State. And that was really hard, being in a different school for 2 years, not really knowing anybody, but it forced me to make friends, to step out of my comfort zone. And so even to this day, some of my hardest memories, 7th grade, and my best memories, 8th grade, were from living in East Lansing, Michigan, right next to Michigan State University. Yeah.
All right, I did some detective work this week and uncovered a very controversial picture of you, Jay, from when you were a young lad. And I was wondering if you could explain to us what's happening in this picture. Yeah, what's going on there, Jay?
Yeah, I was on a hunting expedition. That was a safari I was on. In the rest of that water buffalo is on the other side of the wall. And actually, that is when I 7th grade, when we lived in Michigan, we rented a house up there, and the guy whose house we rented, he actually had been on safaris, and so he had this big water buffalo mounted on the wall. And that Christmas in 7th grade, I got a shotgun for my birthday. Now, why in the world my parents thought I needed a shotgun, I don't know, but I loved it. And so I was pretending I was shooting this water buffalo, and as you can tell, I was a good shot.
And just in the house, just wielding a shotgun in the house.
Yeah, I want to say it was not loaded.
All right, man. 5th question, our favorite question. Jay, when did following Jesus become real to you? I really love your story. It is so powerful. Would you just share that with us?
Yeah. Do you have like 30 hours, that would be good. So maybe like a lot of the students that are at the chapel, I was raised going to church in Huron. That's where I grew up. I'm a Huron Tiger. And, but the message of the Bible, and I mean, I heard about Jesus all my life, but it never really connected with me. But when I was around age 19, a good friend of mine in high school died tragically in a terrible, terrible accident. And I went to the funeral home to pay my respects to the family. And when I walked out of the funeral home, I just started crying. And, as a guy, I'm thinking, what's going on? But I kept saying over and over, where did he go? Where did he go? This guy that I knew a few days before, now he's gone. I started crying, where did he go? And I started thinking about eternity and what happens after death, like I'd never thought about it before. And then I was also thinking about I would take walks on the beach and look up at the stars and the moon and the sun. And I think, who put all this here so perfectly? I started thinking a lot more about God. Even though I've been to church all my life, I just really started thinking about God. And one day I sat on the side of a mountain when I was out west, and I said, literally, God, if you're real, I want to know who you are. And about 3 months later, a friend of mine who goes to the chapel now, even today, he shared with me how I could know God, how I could have a relationship with God by putting my faith in Jesus, by following Jesus. And so from that point on, I became a follower of Jesus. And, over many, many years now, sometimes I think, boy, I've given God a lot of opportunity to give up on me because I blow it in so many ways. And yet he never has. God has just been so faithful, and he loves me. And even today, I want people to know you can have a relationship with God simply by believing in and following Jesus. That's my story in a nutshell, Ken. That was a lot of fun. I appreciate it. Nacho!
There you go, Pastor Jay. I told you, he's awesome. So glad you got to hear his story.
Are you going to Online Ignite?
It's on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Thor's right. It's at 4 p.m.
Where do we go?
It's on Zoom.
I'm gonna be the first to log in.
Yeah, get in line.
Save it. Let's not fight about this right now. We can all be a part of this. We have Ken hosting. He's gonna need some help.
So, you got room for one more?
Of course we do.
Tell him to log in. I'm bringing the party to you.
Is it already Tuesday?
Green, give me power.
Dr. Banner. Now might be a really good time for you to log in.
That's my secret, Captain. I'm always logged in.
Hold on.
I wanna go! I wanna go!
I can't breathe in this thing! Yes, you can come too!
It's at 4 p.m.
Of course you can come!
Tuesdays and Thursdays!
Remember, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m.
Wow, those are some hard choices, aren't they? Basketball or baseball? Ooh, I guess it depends on who you are. For me, the choice is pretty easy. I'm a lifelong San Francisco Giants baseball team fan. I love baseball. I played as a kid. I love to watch it. I love to follow the Giants. I like following the Indians as well. Every baseball year at the start of the season, you get to hear of new players. And players have these crazy stories of how they got to the major leagues and who's projected to do really well and who's not. I remember when I was a kid, there was this baseball player for the California Angels, and his name was Jim Abbott. I liked him because he was a pitcher and left-handed, and I was a pitcher and left-handed. But there was something amazing about this Jim Abbott guy. He only had one hand. Can you believe that? Can you believe that someone with one hand could make it to Major League Baseball as a pitcher? Like, they're so close to the batter. Like, what happens if the ball gets hit back to him? How does he do it? He was simply amazing. And on September 4th, 1993, when I was in my senior year of high school, he was making history playing for the New York Yankees. And on that day, he threw what's called a no-hitter. I don't know if you follow baseball or not, but a no-hitter is when a pitcher pitches the whole game, throws the whole game, and no one gets a single base hit. That is crazy and does not happen very much, maybe once or twice a year. And here this guy did it, and he only had one hand. So wild. I was looking for a video that would share some of his story and let you see him pitch and how he does it, when I came across an even better story than Jim Abbott's. Check it out.
Last night, we introduced you to an exceptional athlete named Jade Booker. I had the chance to meet Jade. She's a bubbly high schooler who is obsessed with softball. But what makes her stand out isn't just her incredible talent, it's what's inside. Tonight, as Gatorade's Win From Within series continues, Jade gets to meet her hero.
Having one hand is just how I know how to live. So when people ask me, oh, is it harder if you have one hand? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't ever had two hands, so I can't really compare it. When I was little, my parents were always like, yeah, there was this pitcher, he had one hand too, and his name was Jim Abbott. He was a big inspiration in my life. I admire his commitment and how he pursued his goals and his dreams and made it to the major leagues. It was just amazing to think that anybody can do it.
Hi, Jade.
Hi.
I'm Jim Abbott. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great.
It was crazy to just turn around and see Jim Abbott there. That's Jim Abbott. Like, he's famous.
I remember being in 10th grade. You know, those were some of the most difficult years to kind of navigate your way through, especially when you're growing up a little bit different. See, now I used to have to turn it, and you do it a little bit differently, right?
Yeah, when I catch the ball, I bring the ball up and I pop it out with this arm and like roll it down, and then I pull it off, and then I throw.
All right, you ready to try a little baseball?
Sure.
Now the pressure's on.
You're the one who should be scared.
Oh, very nice. Good hit. That's all right. That's what you're supposed to do. Line drive, right back up the middle. And to see someone like her, that type of confidence, she's an inspiration to me. I'm going to tell my daughters about her.
No matter what you think your limits are, if you work hard enough, you honestly can do whatever you want.
That girl is amazing. Like, wow. I could not even imagine doing that. So wild. 3 weeks ago, we began this new series called In My Opinion. And in the first week, we talked about how often we judge people. And when we judge them, we end up gossiping about them. And we talked about that we need to use words that help instead of words that hurt. And then last week, we talked about this idea of when we see a friend going down a wrong path, maybe making some bad choices, like, I don't know, becoming a Steelers fan. We feel like we have to speak up. We have to speak up to them and tell them, hey, I'm worried about it. I'm concerned about you. We want them to stop this behavior. Hey, I saw you wearing that Steelers jersey last week, buddy. And we talked about that when you are courageous enough to confront your friend and share with them, you know, hey, in my opinion, I don't think you should be doing this, to avoid using anger and shame and judgment, and instead use compassion and kindness. So this week, we're gonna talk about the opinions we have of other people. We all have opinions about other people, and what we think about them, what we think is fact, shapes and forms our opinion of people. Not sure you judge people? How about this guy, Donald Trump? He's our president, right? Logan Paul. And this power couple, Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. Or how about James Charles? Or how about this lady, Susan Boyle? Or 6ix9ine? Right now, you parents that are watching are like, who are these people? This would be the time when you pause and ask your student, who the heck is James Charles? And who is 6ix9ine? We probably know who the president is. This is especially telling if you don't know these people. When you see a picture of them, whether you know them or not, you make an instant judgment about that person. Sometimes we end up judging people and we're like totally wrong about them. On April 11th, 2009, Susan made her debut on Britain's Got Talent. And she's one of the people that when you see her and you hear how she talks and how she acts, you make a judgment about her. Sometimes we see someone and we form an opinion about them only to find out that we didn't know anything about them and we were really surprised.
All right, what's your name, darling?
My name is Susan Boyle.
Okay, Susan, where are you from?
I am from Blackburn near Bathgate, West Lothian.
It's a big town.
It's a sort of collection of, villages. I had to think there.
And how old are you, Susan?
I am 47. And that's just one side of me.
Okay, what's the dream?
I'm trying to be a professional singer.
And why hasn't it worked out so far, Susan?
I've never been given the chance before, but here's hoping it'll change.
Okay, and who would you like to be as successful as?
Elaine Page.
Elaine Page.
Like
What are you going to sing tonight?
I'm going to sing I Dreamed a Dream from Les Miserables.
Okay. Big song.
Yeah? Yes.
I dreamed a dream in time gone by.
You didn't expect that, did you? Did you? No.
I dreamed that love would never die. I dreamed that God would be forgiving. I was young and unafraid. When dreams are made and used and wasted, there was no ransom to be paid, no song unsung, no wine untasted. But the tigers come with their voices soft as thunder. As they tear your hopes apart, as they turn your dreams to shame. Still I dream you'd come to me. I dream we'd live our lives together. But
All right. Thank you very much, Susan. Piers.
Without a doubt, that was the biggest surprise I have had in 3 years on this show. When you stood there with that cheeky grin and said, I want to be like Elaine Page, everyone was laughing at you. No one is laughing now. That was stunning, an incredible performance. Amazing. I'm reeling from shock. How about you two? But
I am so thrilled because I know that everybody was against you. I honestly think that we were all being very cynical, and I think that's the biggest wake-up call ever. And I just want to say that it was a complete privilege listening to that. It was brilliant.
Susan, I knew the minute you walked out on that stage that we were going to hear something extraordinary, and I was right.
Quite a lot of touch.
Susan, you are a little tiger, aren't you?
Oh, I don't know about that.
You are.
I don't know about that.
Okay, moment of truth. Here's yes or no.
the biggest yes I have ever given anybody.
Amanda?
Yes, definitely. Brilliant.
Susan Boyle, you can go back to the village with your head held high. It's 3 yeses.
Susan's story is a perfect example about what happens when we judge someone that we don't know anything about. Sometimes our opinion of people can be totally wrong. Sometimes our opinion of people doesn't really matter. Like with our president. Like whether you like him or you don't like him, he's our president. But sometimes the opinions we make of other people are deadly. I hope you've heard the story of Ahmaud Arbery. In February, this young man, 25 years old, was jogging or running through a residential street, and two white men, thought that he was a robber, allegedly of some sort, and they ended up shooting him and killing him. They made a judgment about this guy that they didn't even know, and they ended up taking his life. How we judge people, what we think of people, the opinions we form about people really matter. How does something like this happen? And more importantly, how can we keep something like this from ever happening again? This morning I want to share with you from John chapter 8. John was one of Jesus's disciples, one of the 12. He was Jesus's best friend in the inner three, and he wrote about his experiences, his real life experiences being with Jesus. And one of the stories he shares, I think, sheds some light on this whole situation of judging someone. In John chapter 8, it says, Jesus returned to the Mount of Olives, but early the next morning he was back again at the temple. A crowd soon gathered, and he sat down and taught them. So Jesus is up on this Mount of Olives, he's sitting there teaching people, they're coming, and all of a sudden, these religious leaders interrupt him. As he was speaking, the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in the act of adultery, and they put her in front of the crowd. So Jesus is sitting there teaching these people, and these people brought in a woman who was caught in adultery. So you're probably wondering, well, what is adultery? Well, adultery is when you have a sexual relationship with someone that is not your husband or wife. Now, how she was caught in the act of adultery, I don't know how that happens, unless maybe she was set up by someone. Regardless, this poor woman is dragged out, thrown in front of this crowd of people, and they say to her, check out what happens next. Teacher, they said to Jesus, this woman was caught in the act of adultery, and the law of Moses says to stone her. What do you say? So stoning back then had to do with you would take someone who was guilty and you would throw rocks at them until they got knocked out, and you would just keep throwing rocks on them, crushing their body, breaking their bones until they died. So they're saying, hey, Jesus, you're so wise. What do you think we should do about this woman who was caught in adultery? The Old Testament says that she should be stoned. You see, Jesus was amazing. And what he was teaching was so threatening to the people that were around. They had to get rid of Jesus. And so they were looking for ways to trick him or to trip him up or to catch him doing something wrong, because people couldn't believe how he taught and how he treated people. And this story is a perfect example of what made Jesus so threatening. John continues telling us some background. He says they were trying to trap him into saying something they could use against him, but Jesus stooped down and wrote in the dust with his finger. Who knows how long he sat there drawing, and what did he write in the sand? Like, what did he draw? Or did he write words? What do you think he did? Regardless, they were getting frustrated with him and tired of him. They want an answer. So they kept demanding an answer. Jesus, what do you say? What are we supposed to do with this lady? So he stood up again and said, all right, but let the one who has never sinned throw the first stone. Then he stooped down again and wrote in the dust. So he basically says, all right, you guys can totally stone her, and whichever one of you has never sinned in your life, hey, why don't you throw the first stone? Well, obviously, right? They know that they are guilty, that they've all sinned. Verse 9 says, when the accusers heard this, they slipped away one by one, beginning with the oldest, until only Jesus was left in the middle of the crowd with the woman. Then Jesus stood up again and said to the woman, where are your accusers? Didn't even one of them condemn you? No, Lord, she said. And Jesus said, neither do I. Go and sin no more. These religious leaders had judged this woman for the one thing they knew about her. And Jesus looked at her. He saw his daughter, his precious daughter. He saw his adopted sister, and he had compassion and empathy for her, and he loved her. She was so much more than one bad judgment or one bad opinion or one bad experience. And when Jesus looked at her, he loved her. Do you know what Jesus sees when he looks at you? I mean, unless you're a Steelers fan. Even Steeler fans are loved by God and precious to him. Everyone judged this woman as bad, so bad that she should be publicly humiliated, tortured, and killed. But Jesus showed that she was worthy of forgiveness and a future. Everyone else judged these religious leaders as having it all together. Very, very spiritual people. These are the leaders of our church. Jesus showed that they were no better than the woman they came to stone. Because the truth is, we are all made in the image of God. And because of that, we are worthy of God's love and his grace and his forgiveness. That's the way Jesus saw people. And that's how he wants us to see others as well. Jesus wants us to remember that there's more to others than just our opinions of them. To help you remember that, I want to encourage you to do one of two things this week. The first one is, I want you to worry about yourself.
Worry about yourself.
In Jesus' first sermon ever, he talked about judging others. Look at what he says. Do not judge others, and you will not be judged. For you will be treated as you treat others. The standard you use in judging is the standard by which you will be judged. And why worry about the speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? How can you think of saying to your friend, hey, let me help you get rid of that speck in your eye, when you can't see past the log in your own eye? Hypocrite! First get rid of the log in your own eye, and then you'll see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. This would basically be the equivalent of me criticizing someone else for what they're eating. Hey, you think you should have that second helping? You think you should have that extra cookie? You think you should have that ice cream? Instead of worrying about someone else's behavior or interests or choices that you don't understand, why don't you focus on what you're doing and how you can better live the life that God has for you? So the first thing I want you to do is to worry about yourself.
Worry about yourself.
The second thing I want you to do is to remove the judgment. When I was in high school, the President of the United States was this guy, William Jefferson Clinton. President Clinton made some mistakes. He had had an inappropriate sexual relationship with another woman who was not his wife. And when he was asked about it, he lied about it.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
Well, fast forward and more proof came out that yes, he was involved in this relationship. And it was all over the news. It was this huge deal going on.
Indeed, I did have a relationship with Miss Lewinsky that was not appropriate. In fact, it was wrong. It constituted a critical lapse in judgment and a personal failure on my part for which I am solely and completely responsible.
Within a few days, there was a National Day of Prayer held at the White House where they invited all these pastors and preachers and priests and all these religious people to come and pray for the country. And President Clinton was going to be there as part of it. And the reporters came in and they saw someone sitting down in front that they couldn't believe. His name was Billy Graham. But people looked at him as kind of the pastor of our country. I mean, he was famous for holding these giant services where he would tell people God's story and the story of Jesus, and hundreds of people, thousands, would decide that day to become a follower of the way, to follow Jesus. People looked to him as kind of like the model of what a Christian should be. So the press spotted him sitting at this table in the front, and they had to ask him, right, Pastor Graham, what is your take on all the stuff going on with President Clinton? And he said something that I thought it was so powerful. He said, it's the Holy Spirit's job to convict. It's God's job to judge, and it's my job to love. Can you imagine what our world would look like if that was all of our attitudes? If every Christian, our job wasn't to convict people or to judge people, but our job was to love people, to love one another, and to love them. That's what God has called us to do, to love God and to love others. Hey, you aren't ever going to know everything about everybody, except you can know one thing about everyone. They are children of God, made in His image and worthy of His love and forgiveness. Instead of making assumptions about people, what if we looked at them with love and compassion and kindness and grace, just like Jesus did? Remember, there's more to others than just our opinion of them. There's so much to talk about today, so why not start off with this question? What's one way I form opinions about people who are different from me? What's one way I form opinions about people who are different from me? So that about wraps it up for us with Ignite. So glad you could be here. We'll see you Tuesday.